Welcome to the Ward 7 show, and today I have with me a very important individual in Northeast Oklahoma City and also in the city of Oklahoma City that I have had an opportunity to be friends with for over 30 years, and Mr. James Johnson, who is with the Department of Commerce. Is that right, James?
That is correct. That is correct.
And you've had some very unique positions with the Department of Commerce. Would you share with me and our guests some of the positions that you presently hold?
Thanks a lot. Councilman, it's great to be with you today. I've been at the Oklahoma Department of Commerce for a little better than 20 years, and I currently serve as a project manager in the National Recruiting Division. And the thing that I do is try to recruit new business and industry to the state of Oklahoma that is not here, or where a decision to locate or expand is going to be made outside of the state of Oklahoma.
Okay. And you have an opportunity on many occasions to look at Northeast Oklahoma City as it relates to economic development and the Department of Commerce and your programs. Is that right?
Absolutely. Without question, our offices are located in Northeast Oklahoma City at 900 North Stiles, and the wealth of development up under the auspices of the Oklahoma Health Science Center, as well as the Presbyterian Health Foundation, are all located in Northeast Oklahoma City. And that, in addition to other more industrial sites, are looked upon when we are looking for to fulfill the needs of clients that we deal with on an everyday basis.
Yeah. And as we talk about development, that's a segue into another major development in Northeast Oklahoma City that occurred back in 1936 and 1938. Some of the negotiations started as early as 1934 that was really about a park. And I find here recently that I've been around a historical icon that's part of the family of the great visionary of Mr. Walter Edwards and Mr. Waldro Edwards and his wife, Miss Frances Edwards. Is that correct?
That is correct, and I'm humbled to the fact that I was one of his grandsons and grew up knowing this person, and not necessarily the legion of things that he did or were involved in. Were he present today, we would characterize this person as a serial entrepreneur. It was just someone who had the capitalistic bug in his ear, and he saw fit to start and run numerous businesses during his lifetime.
And that was your grandfather. And tell us a little bit about your personal knowledge of his presence in Oklahoma City, and of course how you grew up around a person that became such a monumental entrepreneur in Northeast Oklahoma City.
Sure. Well, I was born during the latter stages of my grandfather's development, but I did know him for the more or less the first 20 years of my life. And at that time, Edwards Addition had already come into being, had been developed, and it was just climaxing at that period in time. He himself had been involved in numerous businesses and had lost a fortune in the junk iron business prior to getting involved in residential development. But he saw a need that was not being met for new houses and homes for African Americans in Oklahoma City, and that need was not being met with any real substance. And he and my grandmother saw fit to purchase a acreage out in what is now Edwards Addition back in the 30s, and from that development grew into what exists now as Edwards Addition and the numerous homes that are still standing today.
Yeah. The interesting, one of the other interesting factors about that, and a great benchmark, not only did he see a need for housing, and when you look at the development of Edwards Addition, you see some of these the houses are still standing. On Page Street, there's in many depictions of the development early on, the shows the framing of some of the houses and the dirt roads and the houses that was built. And it wasn't too long ago, I was driving over in the area, and I'm going, you know, these are the same houses that's in the book that was part of the original development.
Sure.
And so, you know, being humble as you are, you know that there was other major developments that your grandparents made. One of them was the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And the need to see the was really the first break of the Jim Crow health care for African Americans in Oklahoma City by building a hospital in the area, right?
The need for that grew out of, really, it was very personal. It grew out of an illness that my grandmother had. And at the time that she succumbed to this illness in Oklahoma City, she was unable to get fair treatment in a hospital with the sort of services that she needed. And she was told, or my grandfather was told very directly by the doctor, is that if she wanted and needed to get well, she would have to seek service outside of Oklahoma City because of the segregation laws that were present. And it didn't take my grandfather a minute to decide to fly my grandmother to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, where she spent a number of weeks. And it was at that time that they decided together that once she got well and returned to Oklahoma City, it would be their interest and commitment to build a hospital, not just for African Americans, but for all to be able to come. And that hospital was built and opened in 1948 at the corner of 16th and Northeast Grand Boulevard in Oklahoma City, and existed until the early 60s.
And I had the opportunity to meet and know one of the great doctors. I think one of the first doctors that was there is Dr. Charles Atkins.
Very much so, very much so. As well as Dr. Barkley were two doctors who came to Oklahoma specifically to work and to ply their trade at the Edwards Hospital. Numerous others, but those in particular were ones that stand out.
Did you have an opportunity to ever work with your grandfather?
Certainly I did, and again, by the age that I was, in the late 50s, I was able to dig foundation ditches for my grandfather in houses that they were still building at the time. It was a menial job, a job of labor, but it got me next to my grandfather and learned me the value of labor at that time, and certainly some of the beginning and fundamental lessons that I learned in life were at his knee, and looking at what had taken place over a period of time. It was very enlightening to me.
You know, the history has been very kind of rather difficult because obviously your grandparents didn't take a whole lot of time to let people know what they were doing. It was always somebody found out that, you know, they were doing this. And so when you look at all the accolades, your grandfather received you know, a very distinguished award as a businessman. He also received a letter from the president in reference to his development. And the housing development was one of the first grants that was received by an African American from the Federal Housing Administration.
That's correct.
And to know all of this and still see the development still standing, it's do you ever wonder why they didn't make a big you know, news about everything that they accomplished and they did?
My grandparents were not about seeking notoriety about the things that they were engaged in. It was more to meet a need that they saw was unmet, and you know, the real truth is going to be in the result of what takes place. And you know, others have said that it's not for me to write my history; it's of others to talk about it after it's done. And that's somewhat the way that we live in history today. We are living in and through times that we don't know that may be as significant as others may think about in the future. So they were business people. They were entrepreneurs. They were capitalists in the sense that they wanted to meet a need that that someone had. But as far as seeking attention and notoriety to the things that they did, that was not of any big or great interest to them.
Okay. Well, moving on to the next major development was the school.
Yes.
They donated land for a school to be built in Northeast Oklahoma City in the area that's referred to as Edwards Addition. And the school still stands today. It's been moved one or two times, and of course the development has been several additions to the school, but it's Edwards Elementary School.
Absolutely so. And it takes a special meaning. I did not attend the school myself in growing up, but I had numerous friends that that did, and they have gone on and become very successful in life. And you know, their fundamental education was provided, you know, in that instance. When a community is being created anywhere, I mean, there is a need for education, and they saw that. And they first met in a one-room schoolhouse that grew into a multiple room schoolhouse and grew into what exists now as Edwards Elementary School, with more than 300 students there. The idea of Edwards Addition was not only to have residential development, but to have commercial development, as well as those other things that any community would need. Councilman, at the time that Edwards Addition was built in Oklahoma City, this would have been a far stretch to come out to, and it would be far away, you know, out in the, I don't want to say the boondocks, but it would be far away, and the dirt roads, transportation was not out there, water and sewer was not out there.
Right.
Those things had to be brought to make fulfillment in the community, and the school was ideal and essential to what was going to make a community whole.
Well, I want to thank your family. This past year, we had the opportunity to lay some recognition on the walls of Edwards Elementary School in honor of your grandparents, and it was a true delight to see. I think it was your uncle that came from Tennessee that had worked in the area with your grandparents and had remembered so much about the history, and also to have one of the students that was one of the first students, and she stated her family, because of the number of children that they had, they made up most of the first school.
Yes, you make a very good point about the Douglas family.
Right,
and the Douglas
right.
family
Yes, yes.
actually was kind of recruited to the neighborhood by my grandmother. They had such a number in their family that, you know, a school was created around that. And my uncle that you mentioned was actually my mother's first cousin, Reverend J.L. Edwards,
Right.
who worked for my grandfather during the early years of you know, his vocation. And so he worked not only in that addition, but in the junk iron business that my grandfather, and became a successful preacher down in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
But your grandparents also donated land for what is now the location of Tabitha Baptist Church, which was part of his full extension of a community, of creating a community. So you had the church, you had the school, you had housing, and you had medical services.
Yeah, that is true, and it's one of two churches that exist in Edwards Addition today. And one part of the Tabitha Baptist Church actually was what we would refer to today as a commercial strip center. And when it ceased to operate, I think it was in the hands of my aunt, who was able to negotiate a sale of that land for Tabitha's expansion. So it has expanded greater than the house that it was in its beginning.
Well, Mr. Johnson, James, we call you JJ. I want to thank you for sharing, and I know through the year we have been trying to get information as related to the program at Edwards to recognize your grandparents, and to think that that we were able to get so much information because of the living of you and your brother and your mother and other relatives. It was just really amazing. And so I want to thank you for being part of the Ward 7 show today, and I'm just honored to know now the person that you really are, other than the fact that I've always been your friend, and now to know that you have that much history about your family as it relates to a major historical icon in Northeast Oklahoma City, and that's the Edwards Edition.
Well, Councilman, on behalf of our family, we would very much like to thank you for the efforts that you have extended and bringing the recognition to an extent down at Edwards School, and just for the profiling the work of our grandparents during their lifetime. And you know, it started some time ago, and Councilman Willa Johnson was very much involved in getting the neighborhood cited on the National Historic Register, and before then, you know, my grandparents' house there at 16th and Grand Boulevard. So we appreciate very much the work that continues to this end. We're very much a part of the community, and for now, and hope to in the future.
It's going to be forever a protected part of our community. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for being a part of the Ward 7 show today.